Michelle Nieviadomy is a Cree woman. She is a member of the Kawacatoose First Nation. While her roots are in Saskatchewan, she has called Edmonton her home for over 22 years. She is currently the Assistant Director at the Edmonton Healing Centre, where she has worked for 17 years. In this inspiring presentation, Michelle depicts the powerful responsibility, role, and gift of Indigenous matriarchs, the grandmothers.
When I was 11 years old, I prayed and I prayed, oh, what I would have traded for blonde hair and blue eyes. My innocence self thought maybe, just maybe, I wouldn't have to carry this burden inside. The pain of dark skin and distinct features made me think that I was the sin. Oh, on my hands and my knees, my ignorant faith begged my maker, please take me from my own hate. When I was 11 years old, I could not understand. This shame was given to me by the colonial hands. You see, the doctrine of discovery, it destroyed my core identity, for I despised the reflection in the mirror, reminding me that I was uncivilized. The messages, the words, the whispers, the lies, all left this young mind traumatized. So I made myself small and buried my heart, and I gave away it all. I didn't know the rules of this game. I didn't know how to shift this blame. I didn't know how to maneuver so I could feel safe. I didn't know the system, a system that would bring me on my hands and my knees. And it was on my hands and my knees I begged, Creator, change me, assimilate me. I was right where they wanted me to be. Oh, but the winds of change came and Creator called me by my name. The call was always there, but this time my spirit could hear. I rose with fire. I rose a blazing, furious fire. I burned down the walls that conspire against this Indigenous fire. I dug my hands into Mother Earth. I let a new song be birthed. The matriarch sang me back to life. Welcome home, my child. You've always been the light. So I say to my 11-year-old self, take your dark hair and dark skin and give the world your sacred medicine. It's in this moment I give honor to the matriarchs, the grandmothers, the ones who called me home because of Creator's goodness and love. And I'm here to tell their story. My name is Michelle Nieviadomy. My spirit name is Hummingbird Dancer. When I was given that name, I was really hoping that it would land with an eagle or a bear, but I surrendered to Hummingbird. I invite you to open your hearts. And you can go to the next slide. To open your hearts, to open your heart, to open your heart to what is possible. I heard Justice Murray Sinclair say, as he was speaking, and a young man opened up with a drum song, and after he said, oh, what could have been? But I say today, oh, what is possible? I stand on the shoulders of the grandmothers, the women, my mother, my own, who've walked before me. The grandmothers, the matriarchs, they walked so that I could fly. I invite you also, as you listen to the story, you listen to the stories of these grandmothers. May it not take away from your own role and your own story and your own responsibility in Creator's world, but may it inspire you to rise up. May it inspire you to step out in who Creator made you to be. We all live in Creator's world. We all have distinct roles, responsibilities. We all carry Creator's call in our hearts. May you give yourself permission in this moment to dream big, to dream healing, again, to dream what is possible. You do you. You bring your fire, you bring your gifts, because we need you. As much as we need these grandmothers, we need you. So it is my honor to talk and share the story of our matriarchs. The Indigenous woman is the most vulnerable woman here in Canada. Yet through my teachings, she's the most powerful one. Despite colonization and systems intending to eradicate her existence, her role, her leadership, her voice, she is still here. Shannon, Tiffany, Marlene, she's still here. In today's modern world, the Indigenous woman continues to heal, lead, nurture, carry the torch for those who have walked before her. She carries a legacy of fire. You can go to the next slide. The word Cree, the word iskwew-a in Cree means woman. And it actually is derived, we have a beautiful Cree language, and it's derived from the word iskwew-a, which means fire, which tells me Creator knew what Creator did when he called woman into this side of heaven, that we were given a fire spirit. Women, she's born with fire, a Creator-given fire. Her fire is her spirit. It is in her inheritance to be a powerful presence in Creator's world. She is the strength, the backbone of her family and her community. And let me say, she has birthed nations. From birth, she was seen as a gift bestowed to community from Creator. As a baby, community would come gather, and we'd pass the baby around and speak goodness, speak vision, speak dreams into that child. Ceremony, teachings, and stories were there to strengthen and to support her. She would have learned how to love and nurture, lead, and pray from a young age. She would have transitioned from one stage of her life to the next, and each stage was met with ceremony and was met with guidance from the grandmothers, the matriarchs. See, our grandmothers, our matriarchs, had a very distinct role. They had a very divine calling on their life, and that was to teach us our way, teach our ceremonies. By the time a woman reached this stage of her life, by the time she becomes a grandmother, she already would have been equipped with all of the knowledge, the tools, the ceremonies to walk her role and walk her path. So out of her flows a deep well of knowledge that sustains not only her traditions, communities, ceremonies, but everything around her. She's the carrier of knowledge, truth, compassion. She is the decision maker, the nurturer, the leader, and the life giver. Being a life giver not only means the ability to bring another life into this world, while we all know how powerful and sacred that is, but she was able to bring life into the community. One of the greatest and most sacred gifts from the Creator is our grandmothers. It is no wonder the presence of Indigenous women within our nations is a powerful force and undoubtedly necessary for the well-being of our community. And when I say our, I mean our, not mine, but our community. Her responsibility encompasses so much. In some Indigenous communities, it was the women who held the leadership roles. Prior to European contact and the ensuing fundamental disruption to the traditional lifestyle of Indigenous communities, women were the central to the family. They were the center to the family. They were revered in the communities that identified as matriarchal societies. They had roles within community and government as spiritual ceremonies, and they were generally respected for the sacred gifts bestowed upon them from Creator. So their role, their gifts, what they had to bring was given to them, was a divine calling from Creator. Before colonization, Cree children belonged to the mother's clan. Hereditary leadership was passed through the mother's line. The women elders could remove leaders, and Adrian had talked about this. They could remove the leaders whom they disapproved. They carried that much power. The matriarchs were the final decision makers. It was the men that would go to the grandmothers for final approval because the women had that wisdom. They saw 7 generations, not just me, myself, and I. Despite her irreplaceable contribution to the health of community, she was stifled. Our Canadian history tells a story in which Indigenous women faced layers upon layers of barriers, discrimination, and exclusion in which she could not be her authentic self. She could not be the woman Creator intended her to be with the policies that were in place, such as the Indian Act. The Indian Act disrespected, ignored, and undermined the role of Indigenous women in many ways. And the influence of the male-dominated society and a patriarchal system undervalued her strength in the community. So in this new Western world, it interrupted her place, it questioned her identity. And despite the onset of racism, discrimination, sexism, and colonialism, the Indigenous woman is living proof of resilience, perseverance, tenacity, and determination. So we are operating from a deficit in today's modern world, in today's and Creator's world. Traditionally, we would have had access to all of the grandmother's teachings, ceremonies, songs, and stories and knowledge. Creator had always given us the medicine that we needed to live and walk a good life. The sacred things kept the spirits of the people open to Creator's guidance, love, and kept them firmly connected to the one who created us. We live in a world, how we're so privileged and honored to live in a world with the 4-legged, the winged ones, the swimmers, the crawlers, and then of course there's us, the 2-leggeds, sometimes poor, pitiful 2-leggeds at that. But Creator's so good. It's given us everything we needed to walk our path here. We've been given everything to walk in the spirit of justice and reconciliation, only if we were to listen, only if we were to stand up, if only we were to tap into these traditional teachings and wisdom that our grandmothers bring to the table. Indigenous ways of knowing are shaped by our livelihoods and shared experiences of, yes, racism, colonialism, but they're also shaped by our leaders, our sisters, our mothers, our aunties, and our grandmothers. There are many traditional teachings that have yet to be honored, so let's make space. And without this knowledge, we're missing the wisdom in how to cope and to respond and to walk and to heal in a better way. I've had the honor to be a front row diva in Creator's world. I've gotten to witness firsthand as I sit with community, the grandmothers, the matriarchs. So I'm going to share, I think, 5 stories. And as I share this, again, I want you to reflect about the women and the grandmothers in your life, but also thinking about your role. Again, let's not let this take away from you, but let it inspire you to be who you are. From the women who are sitting inside the sweat lodge in iskwew-a, Edmonton Treaty 6. singing her songs, playing the drum, lending her tears and her prayers and her wisdom to the ones who are sitting at the bureaucratic tables making the decisions for the community, to the ones who are in the crevices of the city walking among the people who are struggling with poverty and homelessness, and then the ones who found their truth later on in their life. We're going to hear about all of these stories and what these grandmothers are doing. It is natural to them. It is natural for them to offer their love, their gifts, their effort, their time, their medicine, their hugs, their voice, their songs. But most of all, their presence to make their corner of creators world a better place. And isn't this what this journey all about, to honor creator? We can go to the next slide. And then the next slide. Wherever a woman goes, she takes her heart, she takes her home. Her home at one time was the land, the people, the teepee. In our city today, there's this one Cree woman. Her name is Trudy. She's an elder, a knowledge keeper, a pipe carrier. She's born a Cree woman. She inherited not only this powerful lineage, but a responsibility to walk this journey with love, with courage, with humility, honesty, respect, truth, and wisdom, the 7 sacred teachings. And I would say the matriarch is her crown. She is the prayers of her ancestors for this time and for this generation. She's the one who embodies the very essence of a matriarch. All of her relations include the land, the waters, the animals, the plants, the people, everything in creator's world. She plants her own medicines in her backyard, such as sweetgrass and sage. And she also set up, we can go to the next slide. She also set up a huge teepee in her backyard. Imagine right in the middle of our urban community, there is this teepee. Powerful visual representation of the Indigenous women. There are many teachings of the teepee, and what I bring is what I know and what was passed on to me. And the teepee, and I'm sorry, Harold, to say this, because many years I would watch Harold set the teepee up, but now I know better. You can watch me set it up, that's fine. We'll do it together. The teepee was the women's lodge. She was the one who was the owner and carried the sole responsibility for this lodge. If you see this teepee in the way the teepee stands, and so if we were to open up those flaps, the arms would be like this, and that is a representation of I creator. And that word I was taught it by this beautiful gentleman in Edmonton, Reuben Quinn. And the breath that has been given to me, the breath creator has given to me, I is the response back. So I creator. The base of that teepee, it's a circle, and that represents the wheel teachings that we're reminded to live in a good way with our mind, our hearts, our body, and our spirits. The teepee is the woman's gift. It is her place, her lodge. She is the keeper. She is the caretaker. And Trudy's teepee is one of the safest places in the city for our women. In the traditional sense, it was the woman's fire that kept the teepee and the community spirits warm. So Trudy, she lives, she breathes, circle. So instead of going from this way of being, she's brought it to this. Everybody in her circle is equal. There's no greater than, there's no less than. She defines a matriarch. When I asked her, tell me what you see a matriarch. Tell me about the grandmothers. She says she is a woman that leads by example, by encouragement and support. The matriarch is the center of our families and our communities, as she uses the metaphor of a steering canoe. Sometimes she's at the rear of the canoe steering and guiding. Sometimes she's in the front navigating and encouraging. And regardless of where she is, she's working just as hard as everyone else. Sometimes our women work hard and never get a break because there's so much work that needs to be done. The next slide. On the first day of spring last year, I say that's my new year, the first day of the new year last year. I asked Trudy if she would be, and I was really nervous. I was really expecting her honestly to say no. I don't know why I thought that. But I asked her, we're going to be in the community. We're going to be where the people struggle with addictions, poverty, homelessness. Would you be willing to just sit on the sidewalks with the people and lift your pipe? And our pipe is all about the prayers. As she didn't even hesitate, and yes, I will be there. Just tell me the time, the place, when, where, how. And so she showed up. And so we can go to the next slide. There she is. So if you see behind, the night before someone's home, they lived in a tent that had burned to the ground, right? That's a reality for a lot of our people who are struggling with homelessness. Nonetheless, she set up all of her stuff as if she would have come to the Edmonton Native Healing Centre to set up a pipe ceremony. She was all about community, again, equality. The sacred ceremony, I thought, deserved a better place than the sidewalk of our inner city, but she was able to look beyond that physical world and still be able to offer spiritual care. Yes, these people need a home. Yes, they need food, clothing, water. But the grandmother says also they need spiritual care as well. And she showed up. The grandmother's love covers this city, covers our people, covers our organizations and communities with love and with presence. When the residential schools came in, we know this story, we lost so much. We lost our land, we lost family, we lost so much. But one thing we don't talk about is the love that was lost. Well, we're called into this side of heaven. Creator called us purely out of unconditional love. And we were supposed to be surrounded by the teachings and the love of our grandmothers and community. But as we know the story, that was lost along the way. So this is a time where we're calling back that love, that our people can heal because of the love. We can go to the next slide. This is a Cookham, or the next one. Oh, those are two Cookham. This is Cookham Dorothy. She's 80 years old. It was a chilly Sunday morning in the Edmonton's inner city. A grandmother, along with the rest of the community who were surviving on the street all night, were waiting for the doors of a local drop-in center to open. And there's not a lot of places that are open on Sundays for the community to find refuge and to go. So she was cold. This woman was cold and desperate, along with the rest of the community. But there was one young woman in particular, and she did not have any shoes on her feet. The grandmother noticed, and she says in her strong, powerful, intimidating, when she speaks, people move to action. Someone get this girl some shoes. And the girl had shoes on her feet within minutes. She was advocating for a young girl who was walking barefoot on the floor on the streets. That's what grandmothers do. She's a Métis grandmother. She's dedicated to going to church on Sunday mornings in the inner city. And this is the part of Edmonton where, you were talking about parts in Regina and Winnipeg that, feel a little dangerous. Well, we have a couple of those places in Edmonton as well. And this grandmother will walk right through the hood, proud that she's walking on someone's shoulders who walked before her, because she knows who she is. She will tell the community to smarten up. If I said that to community, I probably would get water, or worse, something thrown in my face. But the women the community respect this woman. She attended residential schools. She's both fragile in her age, but she is fierce in her spirit. She is a believer, a survivor, as she shares her story bravely to whoever will listen. She doesn't hold an official title, but I call her Kokum, and that's powerful enough in my mind. The next slide, this is Kokumlicious. So for those who don't know what Kokum means, it means grandmother in Cree. And I call her Kokumlicious. She's taking up space in the corporate world. She's a mover, a shaker. She's reclaiming her status, her responsibility, her role in the urban centers. She's taking up these roles that were once male-dominated, and probably we could say still are. She's behind the scenes. She's advocating for the rights of the people, for what is fair and just in Indigenous communities. She's sat at many decision and policy-making tables, quite aware that she's operating in a paternalistic system which goes against her understanding of her power as a woman, but yet she remains. She was able to adjust herself to the work culture. And in some places, it was implied by her colleagues that she did not belong. In fact, she shared this story. There was a little bit of a discrepancy between her and one of her male co-workers. And that male co-worker ended up showing up at her house late at night to intimidate her. That's the system that she's up against, but she will still power through. Harassment, feeling the threat, but she stands in her faith in Creator, that this is where I belong. You may not think I belong here, but this is where I belong, and she stands firm in that. Her mother said to her at a young age, "You are going to have to work 3 times harder than the white man." I would say 10. Perhaps a word of prophecy foretelling the journey that she would have to walk as an Indigenous woman in a system that wasn't meant for her. So when she moved to the city, she felt isolated, lonely, and lost. But she clung to what her mother taught her. Even with no mentorship and guidance, it was her strong spirit, her strong work ethic of her own traditional teachings. Women, she knows, are powerful and the center of everything. They're the connection to life. The next slide. This is Elsie. Elsie is one who connected with the call of her heart and culture later on in her life. Within the city, she found a beautiful community, grandmother's community with Elsie Paul, which is all about reclaiming the traditional gifts of the Kokums and grandmothers of the past. And they would meet at Edmonton Native Healing Centre. We have a good relationship with them. And within this circle of grandmothers, she was able to grow as a Cree woman. It was about 6 years. 6 years ago. So I do some contract work with other organizations and partnership with other organizations. And where Elsie worked, she had been there for about 15 years. And her employers, her bosses, rang me up one day. Hey, we'd like to talk with you. I don't know, for whatever reason, when a woman calls and they say that, sometimes you think I'm in trouble. So I'm like, I'm in trouble. I don't know what I did, but I'm in trouble. I was like, okay, let's meet. And these, executives, they asked me, we sat down at the table and they asked me, we want to honor, we really want to take serious the calls to action. We work in an organization, so it was the child welfare system. We work in an organization that has a large number of our kids who are in care. And we want to step into a role that honors their story. So I don't even know where this came from, but because usually I'm a percolator, I need to think. If someone asks me advice, I need to think on it, and then I'll come back to you with an intellectual answer. Otherwise, it's mumble jumble. My response to them was 2 things: restore the matriarch and the land. The matriarch, I knew they had a grandmother in their midst. I knew the roles of our Indigenous women. I knew the power and the healing. So those were the 2 things I said. So they immediately went to action and created a new position. So now this Kukum, now she sits on the executive leadership. Now she opens up every meeting with prayer. Now she greets every kid who comes through the doors of the child welfare system who are longing for a place to belong. She hugs them as she says, welcome home. Grandmother's love, we need it. When you know a matriarch, you know Creator's love, for she is a reflection of Creator. When I woke up this morning, I certainly did not feel like the reflection of the Creator. Oh, I need to put my eyelashes, my lipstick, I need to do my hair, and then I can look a little more like the reflection of the Creator. No matter where we are on our journey, we are. Trudy would always say this: we all carry a piece of the Creator. We all carry the divine. We all carry that call. And we all carry this love. When I look at the New Testament and I look at the teaching of Jesus, the number one thing for me is love. That's it right there. But let me also say, love requires that action. We need to put legs under this concept of love. And we all have a responsibility in that. And so as I close, I want to share about the next slide, this woman. So this is Pauline. She passed away two years ago. I went to fast out on the land. I don't know, 4 years ago, maybe. For the first time, I moved to Edmonton. I moved to iskwew-a on purpose. I live right downtown Edmonton on purpose. I love the city life. So when I was called to fast, we'd have to go to the land, onto the bush. And I was like, this is not me. It's not my thing. So I called up the Cookums, these 2. I said, I borrowed my friend's minivan. I feel like this is probably where I'm going to stay during our fast. I just want to make sure that there's a place for me to park this van. And is this okay? So they responded, we'll get back to you. And I was very hopeful. I will cling, like they gave me a little carrot. I will cling to that. I was hopeful. And I feel like they had to just laugh it off and make fun of me. And then they got back to me. And they said, no, you cannot borrow your friend's minivan. I was like, I don't camp. I don't tent. But okay, here we go. So went out to the land. I was nervous. I was scared. I didn't know what was going to happen. And because I don't camp, when I went and I left my tent, and what we do for our ceremony is we will sit around the fire all night. So when the sun goes down, we're out around the sacred fire. And so we're not allowed to talk, but we pray, we sing our songs. And then it started to rain in the middle of the night. And then the sun came up and I was so excited, like, get me to safety, get me out of here. Let's go to a refuge in my tent. I go to my tent. And because I don't camp and common sense just didn't sink in, my tent was soaked because I didn't close the main door. I closed the screen door. Creator didn't protect me that day. So I go into my tent and I was like, woe is me, this is typical. And everything's soaked. So I got just to the corner of my tent and I was like, this is where it's gonna be, I guess. Still pouring outside. Pauline, in the purple, Cookham Pauline, she comes and checks on me, knock on my tent. How's everything going? I'm wet. And I knew she wasn't gonna do anything. So I thought, I just need to like get it off my chest. And I need someone to feel sorry for me. I'm wet. And she starts to, why? I forgot to close my door. She laughs. And then bye. She leaves. I was like, okay, this is it. She comes back 2 hours later. She said, come with me. It's pouring rain out. And she set up a little bed for me in the lodge. But she had to walk. So where we parked our cars, we had to walk into the bush. It was about a 20-minute walk, so a 40-minute round trip. She hears this Cookham, this grandmother, she's 76 years old. She walked through that mud and that pouring rain. And she set up a bed for me. She took care of me. And so I remember going into this fast that I was gonna, at the end of the fast, I will have arrived my spiritual, journey and aura. I would look out, Harold, right? I was ready. I was gonna be holy after this. But in that moment, I got it. This is love. This is love. That Creator sent me this grandmother to wrap her arms around me, to take care of me, and to nurture me. It is love that's going to call us to one another. It's going to call us back to the heart of Creator. So we have a lot of love to do. So when I think about the matriarchs, I think about what they teach us. We love ourselves. We love ourselves. We love Creator, we love the land, and we love one another. Kinanan Skomtanan, I thank you.